3rd of January, Rabbi Furst Pierke Avos.
Do you have any idea? Oh, here he comes. Lou, Mrs. Heimowitz is having problems.
Oh, now it is. There we go. We're in.
Ah,
Okay.
right.
Hashem.
Thank you.
I like
Hey,
to
ready to
focus
roll?
Hey,
all that way.
Good morning, Rabbi Furst.
Hmm.
good morning, good Chodesh, everyone. Good morning,
Good
Lord.
Chodesh Tov.
Good morning. Good morning.
Forgot the Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov and Baruch. How is everyone today?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch
Very
Hashem.
good. Okay.
Basically, just got back from shul.
Yeah, a bit
And,
of a
and the shul I went to is literally next door. The apartment next door.
Right.
Well, that's
Okay.
convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
you were-
about a few months ago, month or two ago.
Oh, very good, very good. Okay, good morning and good Chodesh. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshivat Samanafshi here, Yerushalayim, care of Zoom. This is our first year in the morning. We're learning Pierke Avos today in the 3rd parak, the 13th Mishnah, the Maimon Rabbi Akiva. And we're learning at this point, and you'll see on your screen as well, on your document in front of you, grab a hard copy. We're learning the parish right now, the Moral Mifrag. We'll probably start it again fresh. Who would like to begin? Any volunteers? Good morning.
Okay.
I do.
And so
Okay.
before we start, can I ask, is this the correct one? Rabbi Ishmael said be easily submissive to a superior.
No, the next one after that, Rabbi Kiva. I'm Rabbi Kiva.
Uh-huh.
We started this yesterday. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Schleich B'kalas Rosh Margilin La'ergo. There's the jest and levity, right? Bring to illicit relationships.
Okay, yes, I've got that.
Is that how they translated by you as well? How did he translate Schleich B'kalas Rosh?
He says, excuse me, he says, Rabbi Akiva said, jesting and frivolous lightheadedness lead a man on to lewdness. The Masorah tradition is offense to the Torah. The tithes are offense to riches. Vows are offense to abstinence. Offense to wisdom is silence.
Okay. So as we just to refresh and also to acquaint you, we discussed yesterday. If you look at the structure of the statement of Rabbi Akiva, there's something different about the first statement than the rest of the statements that follow. Meaning the first statement is to lewdness. These things, jesting and frivolousness, bring to error. It's not a. You didn't mention it's a sayug. You didn't, meaning as this is a parish Rabbeinu Yonah that we did yesterday. You didn't say covered rosh and yira bring to or a sayug the error. It didn't say that. He put it in the negative rather than the positive. So we explained that a little bit yesterday, that wanted to teach us something, a bigger kiddush than just saying that there's a fence. He didn't want to tell you there's a fence because the seriousness of erga is that you don't even want to get close to it. So therefore, that it wasn't enough to say that it should be to make a fence around it. It was more important that he teaches us the very seriousness of these things that will lead you. These things will lead you to erva. It's not enough to say that do these things and you'll be protected from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was Rabbeinu Yom and the Tosas Yom Tov that we did yesterday.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we can continue on with the Maral Miprag.
Okay, let's see.
The
Schok.
Derech HaChaim, you see it there, but it's under the Derech HaChaim.
Derech Chaim. Okay. Schok.
Derech HaChaim.
Ukalos Rosh. Margilin La'arva.
Erva.
Le'erva. So jesting and lightheadedness accustom one to lewdness.
Right.
Tam devar ze yadua ki ha'erva hu be'atzmo. The reason for this matter is known because lewdness, it is in and of itself tzchok, jesting.
Right. I mean, that's part of the essence. The essence of the act of erva is there's a lightheadedness. There's a jesting involved with it. And he brings psukim to prove it, right?
Okay. Uke misham, and from
Ukemoshe kasev, and as it's written,
as it is written, hakasuv in the pasuk in Bereshis Lamed Tet, Hevi lanu ha'ish litzchak banu. Hevi means he brought.
right? Remember, this was the statement of Ashes Potiphar to her husband.
Oh, right. He brought to us a man to jest with us. I think in the art scroll it says to mock.
Right. Okay.
The Perusho erva, and the explanation of this is lewdness. Bezeh bekama mekamos, and this in many places.
You see the same thing in many other instances in the psukim.
Okay. We see the same thing in many other instances. Shanikra, that it is called that it calls erva, lewdness, schok, jesting. Kamo hevi lanu ha'ish litzchak banu. That's the same quote. He brought a man with to us to mock us. Va'af ha tish mayim.
Tashmish. Even though the tashmish.
Even the tashmish. What's tashmish?
It's marital relations.
So even in tashmish, shahu bikudusha, that it's holy, uva prishus nikra, and it's called prishus. Precious, isn't that when they separated?
Right, but see, tashmish is something which there's no more physical act that a person does than tashmish. But nevertheless, the way the Torah prescribes that it should be done with kedusha and with precious, meaning kedusha should be done with a certain type of sanctity. It should be understood that it's a holy thing. It's a even though it's a physical act, it's something which is deeply spiritual. And not only that, it should be done with precious. There should be a certain type of abstinence involved with it too, meaning it has to be some kind of control. It can't be wild.
Nikra tzchok. It's called jesting. Kamo shamar hakasuv, as it says in the pasuk. Vayar es Yitzchak Mitzchak es Rivka. He saw Yitzchak jesting with Rivka, Ishto, his wife.
Right, this was when Avimelech saw them through the window. The Torah describes what he saw as a form of jesting.
Right.
Like a familiarity?
Well, again, it's the actual act has to be done with a certain a level of let's put non-seriousness. If a person's too serious about it, it's not going to work, right? Person has to be relaxed in a certain way. It has to be a certain level of levity involved, and that's the way Kaddish Baruch Hu created things. That it should be done that way, right? But nevertheless, it has to be done with kedusha and precious. But yet the actual mood, the mood that's surrounding the act has to be done with a mood of lightness, of lightheartedness. Can't be person's depressed. He's not going to be in the mood for it. The person's upset about it. He's not going to be in the mood for it. That has to be in a positive. I mean, a positive psychology at the time. If not, it'll be very difficult to perform the act.
So in the case of Yitzchak, what did
Right.
Abimelech see?
That I'm not sure exactly. I don't know. Can try and look around and see if there's any description of what he actually saw.
Because we have to be certain that Yitzchak and his wife were behaving very modestly. No, I mean,
Oh, exactly. There's not a contradiction. It can be done with modesty and sneers, and at the same time be done with a certain amount of levity as well. Remember, I told you yesterday the Baal Tshuva that his marriage.
oh yeah, the same old joke.
Yeah, he told him to say a joke at the beginning, to start things off, to say a joke. Didn't realize he's supposed to change the joke from time to time.
Yeah, it's very important to get your wife to chuckle.
That's right. Very good.
That's right. Keep him laughing.
This fellow was a very sincere Baal Tshuva, so he took things very seriously. So he thought, when his marriage teacher told him about saying a joke, he thought, well, this is the joke that's like, according to halakha, this is the joke you're supposed to say.
Yeah. Well, that was Milton Berle's problem too.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
He told the same jokes all the time.
I should have such problems as Milton Berle had.
Yeah.
I should have all his money problems. Okay, ulefichach amar ki schoch v'kalus rosh margilin u min hagin es ha'adam. Okay, so therefore, it is said that levity and or jesting and lightheadedness, a custom, and min chagim is also a custom.
It brings a person to the behavior of erva.
The behavior of um, legamre lidei erva.
Right. The Kalas Rosh, Skok with Kalas Rosh Margilim, they will lead Uman Higam and also direct the person completely towards Erva, towards lasciviousness.
Completely towards erva. I see. Ki hatzchok mevi tzchok, because jesting brings jesting. Achar shehu erva, and afterwards it comes to erva.
Skok Acher, I mean, a different type of skok. Jesting maybe skok Acher brings a different skok, which is Erva.
Oh, I see. Jesting leads to different jesting.
Right, a different type of jesting, which is
And that
Erva.
is erva.
That's Erva, right.
So you think you're innocent, you think you're just joking around innocently, but then the next thing you know, you're misbehaving.
Right, very good. Mhm.
V'yesh lecha ledas od eich haschok v'kalos rosh margilin es ha'adam le'erva. And it is to you to know, furthermore, how jesting and lightheadedness accustom a person to lewdness. V'zeh ki ha'erva hu salok. What's salok?
It means to remove.
This and this lewdness will remove I don't know what shin yud is.
That's Hashem Yisborach.
Will remove Hashem min ha'adam from a person. V'davar zeh tir'eh ki ha'maaseh hazeh. And this matter, what is tir'eh?
You shall see.
You shall see that these actions, af kasher eno ba'avira, even when it's not forbidden.
Right, it's not a transgression. I mean, in and of itself, like to a certain extent, Skok Kalas Rosh are not in themselves essentially an Avera. They can be, but not essentially always.
Right. Kasiv, it's written, Velo yir'eh v'cha ervas. There should not be seen in you lewdness. Devar,
Ervis Dover.
a matter of lewdness. A
Right.
lewd thing.
Right.
Vishav ha'acharich Hashem. What is acharich?
V'shav acharecha Hashem. That you should. Maybe it's worthwhile seeing this pasuk. This is a pasuk in Devarim. This, if I'm not mistaken, is when they went out to war. Right? They went out to war. That they had to have a machane. It had to be machane kadosh. Chav Gimel. Devarim Chav Gimel. Let's take a look. Try to find it quickly.
Of Gimel.
Yeah, Pierke Chav Gimel. Devarim Pierke Chav Gimel.
Yeah.
It's
We don't know what Pasach?
I'm gonna try and find it in a minute.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's Pasuk, if I'm not mistaken, Pasuk Tezvav, Pasuk 15.
That's Vav. That's Vav. Ki Hashem Elkecha
Yes, exactly.
mishalech b'kerev machanecha lahatzlicha v'loteit avecha efonecha v'haya mechanecha kadosh v'lo yira b'cha ervas davar v'shav me'echa recha. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My English says a shameful thing,
Yeah, shameful thing, right?
which is not exactly the same as what we're talking about.
Well, Ervis Davar, I mean, that the yeah, it can mean, it can have different levels. Let's put it that way.
Right?
So in order to preserve the presence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the camp, especially when we're going out to fight against the enemies, in order to preserve the presence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, they couldn't have any Ervis Davar there. Any, you want to put it, any shameful thing, and that could be in many different ways. I told you, Nahavdil, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, George Washington, remember? He wrote a letter to all his troops, especially officers. And he was very disappointed to learn that the officers especially were using nivel pet. They were using curse words. And he cautioned the troops, and especially the officers, that they should set a good example for the rest of the troops, because he couldn't believe that a army that spoke foul language would have a success in their war against their enemies. That's George Washington for you, right?
Wow.
Right?
Don't forget, he couldn't tell a lie. But so there's this sense of that lewdness. Doesn't have to be specifically in the physical form. It could be in the verbal form as well. It also brings down the whole morals of the people.
Pretty religious guy.
You know, most of the founding fathers were had a religious upbringing, one way or the other. But that's one of the difficulties with this this current generation. The whole concept of nivel peh doesn't exist anymore. It used to be that people would talk respectively, right? There was a certain sense of morality, even in the way people spoke. One of my rebbes, I told you this story at least once before. One of my rebbes was Shmuel Schechter Zechron Lebracha. So he was he was going to of Yitzhak Elchanan. That was the precursor of Yeshiva University and the yeshiva there. So they, part of their thing, they wanted to get a high school diploma, so they would go to night school. They would go to night high school. So when he remembers, he told me this he's witnessed this himself. So the teacher there was a little old lady up the front of the classroom, And then somehow, some way, one of the students, big black fellow, big tall husky black fellow in the back of the room, comes out with some kind of a curse word, right? A 4-letter word. So she walks back to the back of the class, picks him up from the scruff of his shirt and pulls him over to the front of the classroom. And in those days, they used to have sinks at the front of the classroom. So she took a big bar of soap that was on the side of the sink and washed his mouth out with soap because he used a little curse word.
Yeah. My teacher used brown soap.
Brown soap.
Pretty hard.
So there used to be a certain sensitivity to these things, but the society doesn't value that as a as an important value anymore. I guess they have more important things to value. In any event, let's continue on. That was
Okay,
the
so,
pasuk in Chav Gimel.
What?
That's the pasuk in that was the pasuk in Devarim Chav Gimel.
Right. Below yir'eh v'cha ervas davar should not be seen in with you a lewd matter. V'shev me acharecha misham. What is acharecha?
Away from you, meaning the Shekhinah, Kadosh Baruch will go away from you.
Okay, so v'shavid is it'll send away from you, Hashem.
Yeah, Shav, he'll be sent away from you, Kadosh Baruch.
Umikol shechein, and even more so, kasher hu davar erva, when there is a matter of lewdness, shall avera that is accompanied by an avera, legamre, a complete avera, shehu saluk hashchina, that will remove the divine presence. Ki hu maaseh chamre she'ein kedushaso, because it is an act of chamre. What's chamre?
Physicalness. It's Gashmis.
It's an act of physicality, and it's not holy. Yis barach shame, and it's not the Holy One. Blessed is He.
It says, "Ki ma'aseh chamri she'ein kedushasoi yisbarach sham," meaning it's a ma'aseh which is physical, and it's the holiness of the Kadosh Baruch was not there. We'll have to see why. I mean, because we'll have to deal with the question, because it says that there are 3 partners in a person: HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the man, and the wife, right? So obviously, Chazal are speaking about that the Kadosh Baruch Hu does have a part in the creation of a person, in the conception of a person. So we have to understand. But let's finish the statement, then we'll try and put it in perspective.
He kadush us Hashem, because the holiness of Hashem,
Hashem
Yisbarach, umaaseh zeh, and this action, haim hafkim legamre. What's hafkim?
It's completely opposite.
This is completely opposite.
Meaning, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's completely non-physical, right? Completely non-physical, and yet this act is completely physical. So like the two opposite extremes.
Ki hu yisbarach kadosh umaaseh zeh hu behema behemi chamre kamo hativar pa'amim harbe ulechach po'al zeh hu miruchak min Hashem Yisbarach. Because it is a blessing, a holy blessing, and an action. And this action, it is what is this? Bahami?
Behemi mean that meaning this act of cohabitation is the opposite completely to that of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ki Yisbarach u'maisazehu behemi ki Kadosh Baruch Hu is kadosh, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu is holy. U'maisazeh behemi chamre, and this act is beastly, is that of a physical beast. Behemi chamri. Behemi is beast, and chamri is physical beast. It's the act of a physical beast.
Kamo, like Sheha Tivaer Pa'amim. What's Sheha Tivaer?
That has been explained.
Like we have explained once.
No, pamim harbe, many times.
Many times, and therefore, this worker
And velchach poil zev, this act,
it is Maruchak. I don't know what Maruchak is.
Murkan is from Rechuk, is distant. It's distant in a Kadosh Baruch. It's distant from Hashem Yisbarach.
Distant from Hashem. So we're talking about relations with a man and a wife.
Right. We're talking about even under the most ideal conditions. Let's say Yitzchak and Rivka, right? Under the most ideal conditions, whatever you want to say about it, it always boils down to a raw physical act, right?
Right.
Which is completely opposite to the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So now we have to explain, because Kadosh Baruch Hu is certainly involved with the creation of a person, right? So we'll try and explain that. But let's finish up let's do the next paragraph.
V'kasher ha'adam o made biyira ve'ein lo schok v'kalus rosh. When a person stands in awe, and there is not for him jesting and lightheadedness, ki yir'ehu min Hashem Yisbarach. He will revere, he will have reverence to Hashem.
Right. When a person's oimid b'yira, a person's is there in a state of awe, the ain't scope, and there's no jesting and lightheadedness. Ki yira hu min Hashem yisbarach kenegdo. The yira comes because Hashem is there, again, before him.
V'az eno ba li yedei po'al zeh, and therefore he does not come in under the influence of this act. She'al yado ha'adam merachok min Hashem yisbarach, that that is in his hand, that is in the hand of a man to jest with Hashem.
Well, rather like this, it says, but as eno bali de poil zeh, therefore he's not going to come to this action. Sha'al yidai ha'adam morok mekadosh baruch hu, that because through it, through this behavior, a person is going to be distancing himself from a Kadosh Baruch. Hashem is Baruch. Al yidei zeh, meaning through this. Al yidei di means through this, meaning through this action of being involved with Skok Kalash Rosh, that will distance himself from a Kadosh Baruch.
So the act is the schok and the kalish rosh, or the act is the relations?
First comes the Kalash Rosh. And then through that, there's a removal, a distance of a person from Hashem. And then once that happens, then there's the opportunity for the davar of erva.
So it starts out saying that he's biyira, he's standing biyira of Hashem, and Hashem is with him. And then it says, and therefore he's not going to act in a way that is jesting.
No, the first step is whether he is in a situation of yira or is in a situation of kalas rosh. So if he's, as he explains the first part, if he's in a situation of yira, kasher adam omid b'yira, if a person's in a situation where he's in awe, he's in a serious mindset, ve'ein lo schok v'kalash rosh, and he's not jesting and frivolous, ki yirahu min Hashem yisbarach hu kenegdo. The fear, the awe, the respect comes from the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was there in his presence, so to speak. Va'az ein bali de poil zeh, that therefore a person will not come to this act, which is going to be the erva, right? That because through this act, the person is going to distance himself from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now he explains the opposite.
Aval kasher hu omeid bischok ulakalos rosh vehu misolek min hayira. But when he stands in jesting and lightheadedness, he removes himself from yira. V'davar zeh hischila lahasir uleharchik hadam min Hashem. this matter begins the removal of a person from Hashem.
Right, he says, right. Aval kashehu omid b'skok k'kal. So a person's in a situation of jesting and levity, who misalach ben yireh, and that removes him from his sense of awe. Davar zeh hitchil la'asir u'l'rchok ha'adam min Hashem yisbarach. This thing will begin to remove and distance a person from Hashem Yisbarach.
V'hu margil oso molich oso, and he will accustom himself. What is molich?
He's going to be led, right? That who margilo so moilicho so legamri, right? That's going to lead and he's going to guide and lead a person completely elamaisa to this act.
To this action. Shehu meruchak min Hashem. What's meruchak?
To be distance from rachok, something which is rachok is distant.
That he will be distant from Hashem. Ad shehu ba liyadei chet erva legamre, until he comes into the influence of a complete sin of lewdness. V'gam zeh nachon aval ikar ha perush kamo shehis ba'ar lecha ma'aleh. And also this, it is correct, but the essence of the explanation is like Shehativar, I don't know.
That this is going to be guiding him and leading him completely away from Hashem Yisbarach. That this Maisa of Erva is distance, is very far from Hashem Yisbarach. Until he'll come to the actual committing of a sinful relationship. Meaning this act, right, will be perpetrated by a person who's now involved with levity and jesting, because that distance himself from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And once he's distanced from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then it's simply a matter of time that he'll come to eventually do the even one of these most serious sins.
So we're not talking about relations now with a husband and wife. We're talking about something else.
Right, that's right, correct.
V'gam zeh nachon aval. Oh, I read that already. Ki hapo'al hazeh hu tzchok legamre, because this act is complete jesting or scoffing.
Well, no, I wouldn't use scoff, because scoffing is not proper in this context. I would use it's jesting, or it's completely levitous. It's complete levity. There's no mocking here in this particular case.
Okay. V'zahu lashon divrei hachamim, and this is the language of the the words of the sages, Zal, blessed memory, B'chol Makom. Nevertheless, Hamishchakim B'sinokos.
Tinokus.
B'sinokos.
Tinokus are children, Tinokus.
Oh, Tinokus, children.
Is Tinoch a nursing child?
Not necessarily. Could be, but not necessarily.
Okay.
So the supervision of children.
Well, here's Hamisachakim. That's one who's playing with children. He's playing with Misachakim betinokus. That also is you have these people. Unfortunately, they're not well, and they abuse children sexually.
Oh,
That's what we're talking about here.
oh, okay.
That's what he's talking about there?
That's what we're talking about here. And that's why he's using this expression. That's the expression misachakim bitinokus. What does it mean misachakim bitinokus? They're playing with children. Literally, it means they're playing with children. But it means that that's it explains karotashmis chayk. That is the tashmish is referred to as chayk.
Okay, so this is lewd relations.
With children, right?
Kasher lo yavo mimenu tachlis achar leholid banim.
Funny, right? Meaning, why is it called skok, meaning jesting? In this case, maybe you could even interject the meaning mockery. Why is it a mockery? Why is it jesting and a mockery? There's no purpose that's going to be achieved. For example, to have children. This is a sexual abuse that's not going to be leading to having children, right? So that's why it's called skoik. It's called jesting. It's called, you could even apply mockery. It's a mockery. It's a mockery of the usage of the ability that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us, the time that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us to be used to have children. It's mocking that.
Lefichach amar schok ulekalish rosh margilin ha'adam le'erva. Therefore, it is said that jesting and lightheadedness accustom a person to lewdness.
Right. Right. Okay.
We take a break?
I guess so, unless there are any questions. Okay, good. We'll take a break and continue, Mr. Shem. We'll continue in a few minutes with the sharing the Mr. Brewer.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Lou. Good. Good. Hope to see you. Roy, have a good afternoon. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Furst. You too. Be well. Cottage Tov.
I have a request that tomorrow maybe we could just kind of review, get a summary of this last couple of paragraphs.
Sure. That would be very good. I was going to suggest that myself. Fine. Very good.
Great.
Very good. No problem. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right. I will see you soon, Mr. Shem. Shalom.